Nashville Metro Council. It's 4 p.m. and I do detect a quorum, so we will begin the meeting. First item on the agenda is RS 2020-1883, Roten, Syracuse, Pulley, and others are sponsors. Authorizes the Metropolitan government to enter into an agreement with private entities to acquire, share, and otherwise use surveillance technology and install surveillance technology onto or within the public right of way. Do I have a motion? Moved and properly seconded. It looks like we have a proposed amendment by Councilmember Roten. Do you want to address that amendment? You're a member of the committee, and it's your amendment. Oh, you want the? I got you in here somewhere.
I'm looking for the agenda, so that's why I was. What was the item?
1883, RS 2022-1883. Do you want a copy of the amendment?
If we could have the administration explain that amendment, I think it's their amendment anyways. It's rather thick as well, so I'd appreciate it. So, thanks, Mike.
My pleasure. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Chair. The amendment does two things. So first, when the RFQ attachment, when that is printed off by procurement, they go through the Oracle software, and for reasons I am unclear on, it includes computer code language randomly interspersed throughout the contract. You'll see it. It's just X's and hash marks and so forth. It's obvious, but it doesn't belong in there. So Michelle Lane's team painstakingly went through it and deleted those references. And then I think sort of in a while we're at it mode, it did specify that the department that's doing this is MNPD. And so those are the only two changes I would consider it as a housekeeping amendment.
Move the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson.
I move the amendment.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Amendment passes. Now we're on the bill as amended.
Move approval.
The bill as amended on the floor. Any discussion on the bill as amended? Councilmember Nash.
I just want to remind council members that, gosh, I don't know that there's a bill in the past term that's had more discussion. And I know people are passionate about it, but we were able to pass the bill earlier to allow this, and I think it's only fair now that we have a chance to run this pilot, and I hope everyone's going to support it.
Thank you, Councilmember Nash. Any other discussion on the bill as amended? Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think to Councilmember Nash's point, the way to think about some of this issue and some of the concerns we've seen is, again, I think we're now at the point of considering a pilot. I'm okay to look at the data we get from that, but I think the best way to approach this issue until we've resolved some of the broader community concerns is to keep it targeted and temporary. And so I hope we carry forward the conversation in a way that allows us to do that. So appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the bill as amended? Anybody opposed? All right, bill passes. Thank you. Now we'll go to bills on second reading, BL 2022. Let's go to the consent agenda. Why don't we do that? And we've got some bills on consent. That was the only resolution that we had on our agenda. So we'll move to the consent agenda, and I will outline these bills for you by number. If any of them need to come off, you can tell me now. And then I'll read the captions, and at the conclusion of that, I will ask again, so we can pull it any time. So the consent agenda, BL 2022-1573, 1574, 1575, 1576, 1577. Does any of those need to come off of consent? Councilmember Henderson.
Chair, just 1573 for just kind of a point of information question on that one, if we may, please.
Yes, sure will. That'll come off consent. Any others? Okay. Well, we will proceed on BL 2022-1574. Rosenberg sponsor provides the honorary street name designation of Valor Memorial Lane main for a portion of McCrory Lane. BL 2022-1575. Van Reese and other sponsors authorizes the Metropolitan government to accept the new sanitary sewer main and sanitary sewer manhole for property located at 211 Walton Lane. BL 2022-1576. Roberts and other sponsors authorize the Metropolitan government to abandon existing public water mains and to accept the new water main and sanitary sewer manhole for the property located at 223 Osceola Avenue. BL 22-1577. Sledge and others sponsors authorize the Metropolitan government to accept a new water main for property located at 101 Factory Street. Again, I'll ask if any of those need to come off of consent. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve these consent agenda. Moved and properly seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. Now we'll go back to bills on second reading. BL 2022-1533, Rosenberg, Roten, Withers, and Pulley sponsors accept an easement on certain property located at 7034 Charlotte Pike, owned by Lowe's Home Centers, LLC. May I have a motion? Moved and properly seconded. Looks like we have a couple of amendments that we may want to look at first. Councilmember Rosenberg is not here. Does anybody want to offer that amendment? Okay, I don't see anyone, so we'll move to the next amendment. We have a proposed late amendment by Councilmember Druffel. Councilmember Druffel, the floor is yours. Oh, and the microphone.
Thanks, Chair. Really, I think it's very similar intention here. Housing First solution. From his amendment, it says have been provided with permanent and semi-permanent housing, and ours is to provide one option of housing in accordance with the continuum of care. So just making sure that if we have one or two people that might have not been provided the care or the housing solution, the option is then there. And so just sort of a defined solution for that and more wording of anything else. So there might be one or two unhoused that will still remain, but they've been provided the option. We want to be able to execute or provide action when they've been provided the option. Does that make sense?
Kind of. Let me get some clarity on this. Is there any mandate that that these people be provided housing options? My concern is if you got people coming and going, and how is that addressed?
Yeah, let me back up for a second. Everybody will be offered an option, 1 to 2 housing options that are currently in this homeless encampment. In Councilman Rosenberg's, he said have been provided with permanent housing. The concern there is making sure some of those have not necessarily used that permanent housing. Therefore, the language could be a little bit wrong where we're trying to get people that opportunity for housing. We want to be able to say they've been given the option, therefore we can carry through with the fencing. Does that make sense? Or if not, April, if you're here, if you want to help define that a little bit better.
Thank you. That does help with clarity.
Does it? Okay.
I'd like to go to administration and let them comment on the amendment. I'd like to get their perspective and put that before the committee as well.
Thanks so much.
Jamerson?
Thank you, Chair and Councilman Druffel. So Councilman Rosenberg's amendment, and it's just reference to occupants being provided with housing. The initial concern was provided just means made available to, doesn't mean they necessarily accepted it. He, I think, understood that concern. We prepared a late filed amendment and submitted to his consideration. Some other provisions that we thought might make sense for clarity was to have an as-of date. For example, assume Brookmead, the site is all the occupants are relocated and the site is cleared, and then someone else comes down the road and decides to set up camp, well, that person hasn't been housed yet. And so would we just have a perpetual and continual delay in the ability to enforce the ordinance? So you'll see the late filed amendment references those occupants as of December 6th. So there's a clear cutoff. But lastly, and I think more importantly, there's a specific reference to the encampment strategy that MHID, under the continuum of care, has implemented with input and committee processes that has a variety of specific terms and definitions that we can resort to. One of which, by the way, is that under the Department of Housing and under HUD and other organizations, there is a requirement that housing be made available before individuals are relocated. And so that, I think, offers the reassurance that Councilman Rosenberg was after, but I think it just offers a bit more date and specificity clarity in this late filed amendment.
And Chair, I'd like to move this late filed amendment as Mr. Jameson defined it a little bit better than myself. And then I don't know where Mr. Rosenberg is on this, but I'd like to move this.
Okay, we need a member of the committee to do that. Councilmember Allen has moved the amendments, properly seconded. Any discussion on the late filed amendment by Councilmember Druffel? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the amendment passes. Councilmember Duffer, you mentioned something about the Rosenberg amendment?
No, I was not a part of that Rosenberg amendment.
Okay, so I heard you mention something about it.
I just referenced it as a differentiation from what he put in his amendment.
We are now on the bill as amended. Any discussion on the bill as amended? Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wasn't clear. I know we just had a lot of discussion on Councilmember Druffel's amendment. I don't know if you know or if anybody knew, was Councilmember Rosenberg hoping to run his amendment?
I do not know the answer to that. Does anybody from administration be in communication with Councilmember Rosenberg? I don't think they know either.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. It certainly isn't going to preclude him from filing it on the floor. Councilmember Roten.
Someone moved it last night in Budget and Finance, and we put it on in Budget and Finance last night. So, however, Mr. Druffel was not here last night, and so that was not put on in Budget and Finance. So we'll have a nice party on the floor tonight. So.
Okay. So I'm not hearing anybody that wants to add this amendment at this time. So we're on the bill as amended with Councilmember Druffel's amendment. Any discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, the amendment is recommended for approval, and we have actually two other items. Bill 2022-1572, Young and Bradford are sponsors, amends Section 12.12.190 of the Metropolitan Code relative to traffic calming projects. Councilmember Young, this is your bill, and you're on the committee. I'll yield to you. If I can find your, I know you really are. Now I've given you the microphone. That might be a mistake.
I was lost, but now I'm found. Thank you, Chair. This is similar to legislation that Councilmember Rosenberg had a couple months ago, except it does not specify that projects need to be in every council district every so many years. In fact, this legislation has nothing about every council district needs to get a gold ribbon or a gold star or a blue ribbon or a traffic calming project. This is essentially what NDOT wants and fine-tuned to allow private participation in private funds and traffic calming projects. And with that, I would move approval and defer any questions to NDOT. Thank you, Chair.
Do I have a second? Bill is moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one question. In the area where it talks about the privately funded ones and needing approval of the homeowners, it says 66% of homeowners, I think. I may be offering a late friendly amendment. Would it be appropriate for that to be residents as opposed to homeowners, or do only people who own the homes get to vote? Mr. Chair, if I might ask the sponsor.
Go ahead.
I'm open to that. I sort of relied on the department for what they, so this might be something that Director Alarcon might have a better answer for, but I'm open to that because I understand exactly, that happens in some areas where the owner could be a trust out of New York that
Right.
isn't particularly concerned with traffic calming.
And renters may have a lot of interest in that.
Correct.
So I would
So
just
I'm-
welcome that discussion.
Sure, and maybe the
Director
director.
Alcalon, would you like to speak to that?
Good afternoon, and thank y'all very much. That is our current process that we have in place in line in our current traffic calming program. So the way it's drafted in language mirrors what we currently have. We would like to stay consistent. We do look for property owners because they are the ones that would have a say about whether that would affect their property value, as where a renter is more of a transit. So we really would prefer that comment come in, or that proposal come in. The one thing I just want to mention about the 66% is we now do it through a ballot process. So basically the ballot goes out. They have a chance to respond. It's based on the number of responses we get back. So if someone is out of state, such as, owned by an LLC somewhere in New York, and they choose not to respond, then we take that as a quiet yes. So that would just fall into that line, just as an FYI.
Councilmember Allen?
Okay. Thank you. I agree that being consistent is important. So that may be something we want to talk about later more globally, but I'm good with keeping it consistent. So thank you for that information.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess this is a little bit for the sponsor and a little bit probably for the department. So it's two quick questions. One, I think I understand what you're saying in terms of the intent of the bill is to offer the elements of the previous, but we're not requiring the geographical distribution to be, hey, every council district, et cetera. And two, I think I heard you indicate this, and I think where the department is suggesting this too, but the department is supportive of this approach.
Go ahead, Councilmember Young.
Yes, there's no geographical requirements in this, so that the projects will be selected based on their score, not based on where they're at in the county. So that resources will go where resources are best needed.
But the primary intent here is really to allow for some more flexibility of community-based funding.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's for me at least, the number one goal was to make it so that there can be private funding in the situations where there is, for example, maybe a rezoning going through and we want a developer to help participate in the traffic calming project for that area. That was my number one goal with this. And then as far as the department's support, this is for the most part the department's language. And I won't speak for the director, but I do believe this has her full support.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Councilmember Cash.
Thanks. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. I'm supportive of this bill. Just kind of just to chime in on a couple of the things that have come up in the last 5 minutes. I would like for us to consider, I do agree we should be consistent, but I would like for us to consider like having residents that are not owners more a part of this equation. They're the ones that are going to be driving over speed cushions every day. And I guess Director Alarcon said that the property owners are being asked because it might affect property value. Is that like something that's documented or just a fear of theirs?
No, there's actually some case law out there that gives the decision about something altering on the public right of way that's adjacent to someone's property, that person should have a say over maybe perhaps someone that they have rented or leased their property to. So there is some case law out there that goes to the property owner and not to the side of the actual person that is maybe leasing or renting that establishment. So we go with the side of we are conservative about this because unfortunately we've been in positions where we have put stuff out based on what the residents want, and then when the property owners have come forward, we've been forced to take it out. So what we've moved toward is a ballot a ballot decision that goes out. And so if a property owner chooses, not to vote on it, again, we take that as a silent yes. So the 66% is based on return ballot that we would decide to move forward on.
Gotcha, and I appreciate that that change to policy. Also, Councilmember Young kind of talked about how it allows the community to be more participatory. I know that, and I know Councilmember Allen did it last term, and Councilmember Sledge has a bill up now that in the SP provides for some traffic calming. We do SPs a lot, and I know some we may do more than we should. But it is a way for us to, kind of nail down some specifics. So, and the way you said it's a little different, the way Councilmember Young said it's a little different. So, if there's an up zone or a zoning change, it doesn't just have to be an SP. That a developer, if it's just like a change in, from single family to multifamily or something like that, but not an SP. This would allow for the community to have some input and negotiate something outside of an SP. Is that what I'm understanding? I guess that's a planning question.
So I would say as a district council member, that provides leverage and the ability for a developer to help show that they are providing a benefit to that neighborhood or community by participating in providing those traffic calming measures, whereas right now that is not an option for them. And then further in the weeds on that, because I think that might get into a legal question, I might defer to Ms. Darby or other staff, if that doesn't answer your question.
It kind of does. I guess what I don't understand, and I think I understood it in the previous version of the bill, but will the developer have to pay, or can the money flow to the neighborhood association or HOA and they install them?
I would think that would be on a case-by-case basis if the neighborhood association was going to participate.
But both are possible.
My understanding is yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm supportive.
Councilmember Young, do you need clarity from Director Darby on anything? Or are you good?
I think I'm good.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Councilman Young. I do appreciate the intent, and I know as we kind of work on improving our traffic impact studies, we may see increasingly as a response to development impact, not just being necessarily at an intersection here, but often, implement some speed cushions. My concern comes in the convergence of those things. So if we are doing traffic impact analysis and, the department is recommending, speed cushions for a certain street, I would ask colleagues again, why are we going through a process to have property owners vote on what happens in the public right-of-way for safety purposes? And so I think I'm a little concerned, colleagues, I continue to be concerned about us codifying 66% and that process because, for us to be able to explain to our constituents why perhaps on a collector because of orders of magnitude or in the proximity of a school or a park, the queue for this is so very long. We have got to come up with a way that, transparently kind of buckets these things in such a way that we can move forward on safety improvements without being kind of caught up in this balloting process. And I think what we are unwittingly doing in pursuing this process is saying to property owners, you should be concerned about this. This might affect your property value. This might, and so I absolutely am all about constituent engagement, community education, having the meetings that we need to have. But I think, as we all know, you can get one or two people who just think, I hate, speed humps, which they aren't, speed cushions or otherwise. And that can just go really sideways for the community. It continues to be, even through the balloting process, in my view, Chair, pretty onerous on, whomever in the community is trying to effectuate a safety improvement. And so I appreciate that we've done a lot of work and had a lot of conversations about this, whether through Councilman Rosenberg's bill or Councilman Young's approach. But I would just encourage us, I know we've been working on this a really long time, but I still think we can do better in this space, and I am just very concerned that we are codifying a particular balloting process, a certain percentage, when we need to be figuring out how we can be moving forward on more of these and making an objective, transparent case for why we just need to put these down on the road and not go through all this balloting. And so with that, I would ask perhaps if the chair or rather the sponsor would entertain a one meeting deferral.
Councilmember Young, to you on that.
So I think the points that Councilmember Henderson has brought up are ones that the short answer is no. I really wouldn't entertain a one meeting deferral, primarily because this is the same bill that was getting ready to move forward, except when it was previously filed, the sponsor at the time withdrew it because it had an amendment that wasn't, that took out something that the sponsor didn't like. And so he was able to do that. And so I think this is a bill I feel like has the support of the council, that I don't want it to be deferred and not be implemented and slow that down any longer than it has been, because it does further push back opportunities as cases come through the Planning Commission for developers to be participating. I think possibly what Councilmember Henderson is, that conversation might be a greater conversation than just one bill or an amendment to a bill. And then, for further thoughts, if I could, Chair, I would defer to the director.
Who we're losing.
I will. Yeah.
Syracuse.
I've asked to defer to the director. Director Alarcon.
Director
Alarcon.
Oh, Alarcon.
Thank you, sir. Just two things that I would like to add. The way this is structured, so from a personnel perspective, the way this is structured is if a private entity wants to fund it, they also can fund the review process. So the idea is not for us to take and use staff, but that they would actually be funding that so that it would go all through. All we would do is be reviewing the plans and saying, yes, move forward. As far as, so that way we could get it done quickly. So that's part of what's built into this initiative. As far as it comes to safety, if there is something that we need to do that we feel is a safety practice, you're absolutely correct, Councilmember. We're not going to ask for permission. We're going to go do it because it's a public safety issue. Majority of these, I want to say most of these are not really what we would call a public safety issue. These are more about a quality of life, slowing down the traffic in people's front yards, trying to reduce the speed. I know we want to classify that, but in that sense, if it's a true public safety, we're not going to ask. We're going to go do.
Chair, all due respect, all of these are public safety. They absolutely are. And so I think we can make a kind of a hierarchy of orders of impact, right? This is near a park. This is near a school. This has a volume, and that decision tree. Colleagues, what I'm really concerned about is we are unwittingly painting ourselves into a corner to I fully support what you're trying to do, Councilman Young, particular to the development piece of this. But what this legislation is doing is codifying the entire traffic calming program and all the details thereof. And I think maybe I just have a philosophical difference with the department But I would encourage colleagues to kind of think through that a little bit, and think about how deep the queue is. And then, Director, again, what we are unwittingly doing in having community members vote, and again, all due respect, by your remarks here, that's saying to the community, actually, these are just kind of an added quality of life thing, so you get to kind of vote them up or down. That's not what this is, you all. You know, in your community, our kids can't bike to their friends' houses. Our kids cannot bike to the park. They can't bike to school. And the reason that is because people are cutting through neighborhoods. I feel really strongly about this. Speed cushions, things like that, they are not some kind of superficial quality of life amenity, and we all want one in every district. These are fundamentally on-street vertical measures that actually work. Okay, and we are disabling ourselves through codifying a process that makes implementing them unduly onerous. And I just would ask you, please, to let's just take a little bit more time. Director, I know we all want to definitely defer and respect your professional acumen, what we're doing with Vision Zero and everything. But I feel like, colleagues, this program is in this really awkward limbo place because it isn't getting implemented at the speed at which it needs to be. I know we're all trying to deliver for our communities, but let's not unwittingly paint ourselves into a corner to make it even harder to deliver these with respect to the good changes that have been put in place with the online balloting and all those things. And there may still be, again, in the hierarchy of how we do this, some may need to be, but I would assert that the ones that, you know, are near schools or are near, like, we got to start kind of reevaluating that queue and just start putting some of them on the ground. I think this city had a few early speed hump installations. Councilman Pulley, you'll remember in your district. We are still talking about that to this day. That was well over a decade ago, and they were bad speed humps, y'all. They were too high. They were poorly engineered. People drove around them and people honked. And this city is still talking about those, going, oh, that was really bad. We got to, let's move on. These speed cushions are very well designed. They don't pop you up, whatever. I just feel like we've got a lag in our education chair on this and process, and then through all the leadership change that we've had, I really feel like we can get there. I'm just really concerned, Councilman Young, that unwittingly, with all due intentions and good components, we're painting ourselves into a corner and tying our hand behind our back, Chair.
I think Councilmember Henderson, you want to respond to that, Councilmember Young?
I would, Chair. Thank you. So, Councilmember Henderson had asked for a deferral, but I guess I'm curious what a goal would be and what we would hope to come out of that, because this is legislation that went through 2 readings, was going to go through on a 3rd reading, then was withdrawn. I filed it again in a previous committee meeting. I notified and said during this committee meeting my intention of filing that legislation. That legislation was filed. It was noticed. It has been on the agenda. We're now on 2nd reading. I'm curious if you feel like there's a better way, where's the amendment or a substitute to do so, and what is it that is expected for a deferral to produce? It's just, if there's some definite answer of, hey, I would like to offer X, Y, and Z for an amendment for the next time, great. But what I don't want to happen is let's just defer it for the sake of deferring, because maybe this is just philosophically a bill that Councilmember Henderson can't vote for. And I totally get that. And I respect where she's coming from. But I just want to know, if this is deferred for one meeting, what is the goal, or is there an output expected from that?
Councilmember Henderson, respond.
I appreciate that, Councilman Young and Chair. That is a fair criticism, Councilman Young, genuinely. I knew that your intent in revisiting that legislation was specific to the development component. And so when I kind of saw it, I was like, he's doing that development piece. I'm all about that. So shame on me. I did not give it the close attention that it deserved. I did not realize that we were outlining the whole entire program. So I guess I would commit in the period of the deferral to bring an amendment in the hope that it would be a friendly amendment, and I can commit to do that work in the meantime. I don't want to, we're moving into December and staff, and, so I guess I should ask Director Alarcon if they have staff time to work on that, but that would be my commitment, because I respect that. That's a fair criticism. I should have realized what the component parts were earlier.
Councilmember Young, back to you.
If something can come out of it, then I am open to a deferral, but I do want to, I guess, and it might just be something that codifying this just might be a goal of the department, what they think is best, and it might just come down to something that you don't think is best. And so I guess I defer to the director if she thinks that there is leeway there, but I just, and I know there's a lot of discussion about a deferral, but I also would like to hopefully move it forward if we just feel like at the end of the day, it's just a philosophical difference.
Director Alarcon.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm more than happy to have the conversation. I am all about getting it right. I just really do want to put some clarity around this a little bit more, because when we are doing evaluation of traffic calmings, we are looking at everything that you specified. We are looking at, is it near a school? Is it near a park? What is the speed? We're looking at all of that, and those are part of the criteria we're using when we're evaluating. And that's kind of what kind of helps us, like, for example, if it is near a school, near a park, then that does get more points and it gets elevated to the top. So that is part of our criteria that we are currently using. So I just wanted to add some clarity to that, but I am more than, I'm always looking at how we can improve things. So I'm more than happy to continue the conversation, but I just wanted to let you know we are currently doing that. And it really does come down to a staffing and financing that's available to move the program more aggressively forward. So just for clarity.
So I would move, Mr. Chair, for a one-meeting deferral with the understanding that, if nothing comes out of that, then I really do want to proceed with the bill.
There's a proper motion on the floor. Do I have a second? All right, we have a motion to defer one meeting. Is there any discussion on the deferral? Seeing none, all in favor of the deferral?
Aye.
Any opposed? So the bill as amended is, not as amended, the bill is deferred. Councilmember Henderson, before you leave, I just wanted to comment, we talk a little bit about conduct and demeanor and the way we carry ourselves. And this exchange between you and Councilmember Young was very impressive, and it really was stately handled on the part of both of you. And I just wanted to recognize that, because I'm very impressed with what I saw.
Well, thank you. Do we get a raise?
I will put you in for one, but it's refreshing to see that kind of debate. Appreciate it. Now we'll move on to next item on the agenda, BL 2022-1573, Sledge and other sponsors approves an agreement between Metropolitan Government and Mark Street Management, LLC, concerning the construction of public infrastructure improvements on the Fairgrounds campus. Do I have a motion? All right, moved and probably seconded. Any discussion on this bill? Councilmember Henderson, you pulled this from consent, and I just wanted to give you the opportunity to remark on it before I move to.
Yes, sir. If it has been moved, again, my questions were just point of information. So it's
it hadn't been voted on, so the floor is yours if you'd like to.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so I was attempting to pull up, or rather did, the associated Exhibit B. I think colleagues may recall in our last term, and I know the community is interested with the fairgrounds deal for this soccer stadium and the 10-acre parcel chair with the mixed-use development. There was also an associated piece of legislation that was GO bond authorization for $22 million, as I understand it, of potential participation around infrastructure. And so, as I understand it, Chair, this is $9 million of that bucket and I was looking to try to kind of ascertain, there's a plaza, there's an extension of Benton Avenue. I just thought for the community and the council to understand specifically what are these public infrastructure improvements, how much of that 22 million has already been dispersed, and how much remains, please, Chair.
Sure. I will throw that to the administration. Mr. Jamerson?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councilman Henderson. I don't have the answer on what is remaining from the 22 million. The objective of the participation agreement here was Market Street, as you may remember, was developing the mixed-use development, the residential and commercial, and they are immediately adjacent to this. I would call it a public breezeway. I think there are probably better terms for that, and I've seen other nicknames for it, Speedway Plaza, et cetera. But it is just this public thoroughfare on Metro property immediately adjacent to the development Market Street is currently developing. The concern on our part is if Metro does the work and causes any damage to what Market Street is already in the midst of developing, that's on us. Market Street volunteered through this participation agreement to be the developer. They're already on site. They already have the specifications. They already have the demarcations for their property. So it was safer and eventually cheaper for us just to, while they're at it, engage their services. So that was the intent. I will check with, I think Mr. Cross has been negotiating this, and he may have the figures on what remains of the 22.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Jameson. So, I guess what remains, but also I would want to understand the previous expenditures, because I have had some concern when we do these participation agreements in a variety of places, had a fair number of them last term, that those buckets are a little, I guess what I would call slushy. The infrastructure sometimes is not yet defined. There's just a certain presumption. And I recall that with this bond authorization or this bucket, that it was like, well, we might need a new intersection. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, whether that's at Rains Avenue or other of the pikes and intersections and so forth. So because at initial passage, Mr. Jameson, we did not really have clarity on what the associated infrastructure would be, Chair, within that public right-of-way, the streets, the intersections, and so forth. I was a little wary of advancing that number, not knowing what we need. So I'm interested to know, Mr. Jameson, what has been spent up to this point on what, and how that relates to this $9 million from a plaza perspective, because that sounds great, like it's pulling the campus together. It is a public right-of-way. It is about connectivity. But I know there were some, with railroad track intersections, and it seemed like there was a fair amount of complexity in the associated infrastructure. And so I'm wanting us to make sure we're scrutinizing this. If we only have 22 million of GO bond authority, and we're putting $9 million to a plaza that's immediately adjacent to associated private development, are we reserving enough for all the stuff that's happening, at the perimeter? If we could get that by the main meeting, I'd appreciate that. And in the meantime, Chair, I think I'll just abstain, not knowing the answers to that. And I
I see
apologize.
Director Womack back there.
Thank you.
Director Womack, would you like to comment on this?
I will. Thank you, Chair, Council Member. I can answer some of your questions. So right now, we don't have any expenditures out of that bucket yet. This is actually the project that is furthest along in that 22 million. So this allocates 9 million of the 22. The other projects that we are looking at include a roadway that actually attaches and is on the other side of this, what we referred to it as Speedway Alley just because it's between the Speedway and Block 8C, but it would extend down to Craighead. So there's some other roadway and peripheral access points within the campus that will be included in that 22, but those aren't fully defined nor designed yet. So this is what's furthest along at this point, and we wanted to kick this off first. We'll take the remaining 13 million and start with design on the other pieces pieces, and then we can get you a more definitive list as we work through the budget once this is approved.
Okay, I think, my question was always like, is 22 enough? Is it too much? And then I understand this is private development, so it's further ahead in the cycle. And my worry is just, okay, so now there's 13 million left. And if we need to effectuate railroad crossings and reconfigure bridges and do major intersections, then are you back at this council asking for more infrastructure and bonding authority? So I don't know. Director Alarcon, are you aware of any discussions of peripheral infrastructure? And have you all made any sort of preliminary assessment if the 13 million remaining would be sufficient to address it?
It's been a good.
Director Alarcon?
Yes, we've been working very closely with the fairgrounds on any of the peripheral improvements. We're actually building part of the peripheral for them. So it'll continue to be that partnership. So at this point, we're comfortable. The price of construction is going up, down, it's very volatile. So I would say we've been at a peak. We're now seeing a slight decrease. There might be another peak and a decrease. So at this time, best estimates are yes. And then we'll continue to work very closely with them and where we can build this partnership or even offer an avenue that allows us to do it in a less expensive way. We're there as partners at the table with them.
Okay, and then I guess the last question would be, is it up to 8.9 million? Like that's a maximum? If it comes in as executed under that's a possibility as well.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. Any more discussion on the bill? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, we recommend approval. I don't see anything left on the agenda. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring up? Councilmember Cash.
Point of order. At the last meeting, I want to make sure I'm okay here, because at the last meeting,
You got your microphone so we can hear you?
At the last meeting, Bill 1530 on right-of-way obstructions was before this committee. We had some good discussion, and Councilmember Henderson asked for a deferral. After I agreed and made the deferral, you asked me if I wanted to re-refer it to this committee, and I said yes, but it's not on the agenda. It is on the government ops agenda. So I just want to make sure that if we get a recommendation from government ops that we are good for the bill to move forward.
Are you okay with that?
And Councilmember Henderson has the same memory of what happened as I did.
Okay. Are you okay with that?
I am, Chair. For transparency, if anybody had been interested, I just wanted us to articulate it in this committee. It's a friendly amendment. Councilman Cash has signed on to it, and I appreciate it. So we just wanted to speak that into the room for the record.
All right. Thank you for that. Any other comments or issues to discuss before we adjourn? Okay. Thank you all for attending. We are adjourned.